they retreated south without incident. And as they retreated south, now they're being threatened that they're going to be arrested. And we are also being threatened that we're going to be arrested. So we're live streaming here in Minneapolis. If you're just tuning in, the 5th Precinct State Patrol is moving in. They asked that protesters retreat.
Yep, understood. So we'll make the phone calls that are necessary there up through Minneapolis chain of command there.
Yep, that's fine.
But for the time being,
okay,
just so we can ensure a safe.
On the sidewalk right here on the curb?
Actually, if you just want to sit right on the side.
Yep, we'll do that.
So it sounds like State Patrol has committed to.
Captain.
We're trying to hear from Captain, but he
Captain,
is.
we're pressed, Lieutenant.
This is the Minnesota State Patrol, and you're in violation of Minnesota Statute 169.
So the community outreach folks who are out here were they were told that if they sat down, that State Patrol would make whatever calls through the chain of command to Minneapolis Police Department to ensure that there potentially will not be any arrests, is kind of what it sounded like. And so he said if everybody just complies, that they will go through the proper chain of commands to get everything straightened out, but that everybody needed to sit down and comply with the demands that they were issuing over their loudspeaker. And so what we are seeing is that the majority of the peaceful protesters are complying, but we do see more than a dozen individuals who have been handcuffed at this point and are continuing to be handcuffed. And we were also threatened by one of the Minneapolis Police Department officers that we would be arrested as well. And so based on what we just learned from the State Patrol captain, we will kind of wait it out and see what happens here at the Minneapolis 5th Precinct. So as you can see here, dozens of individuals have laid down and complied with demands, but we do see it looks like a few folks have been handcuffed. Not 100% sure if they're handcuffed or if it's the plastic ties that have been. Yeah, it's the plastic ties that they're putting around their wrists. So as you can see right here, this officer is putting a plastic tie around this young lady's hand. She's laying flat on the pavement with her face down. The protesters here are being told to be down on their stomach, hands behind their back. They're under arrest. We see more than a dozen, what looks like, can't tell if they're State Patrol. They're moving in.
Those are State Patrol.
Yep, State Patrol is moving in. More than a dozen. So we're seeing more plastic wraps being distributed. Individuals are being told that they're going to be arrested. So we're seeing more plastic cuffs being distributed at this time. About a dozen people.
Sir?
Excuse me, officer. So to the right, it almost, from what I've observed, there were some plastic cuffs that were brought this way. And those plastic cuffs are actually in the hands of this officer here who is talking to State Patrol. And so my guess would be that those plastic cuffs were brought over here for this row of individuals who was told by the captain of State Patrol that they had nothing to worry about if they complied. We've witnessed them comply. And so this officer has told everybody to stay quiet and get on the sidewalk, and they're continuing to comply. And so what we're seeing in the front is one of the Minneapolis police officers talk to the National Guard, and it looks like they're giving the community outreach folks the right to leave. Now over here behind us, we're seeing more individuals, more protesters be cuffed.
Sit down. Sit down. Right there. Sit down. Sit down. Officer, we're pressed. Can we move around? We haven't been able to talk to somebody. Sit down. Sit down.
So we're asking for some type of guidance or permission on the rights that we have to move around in this space right now. But every time that Nico, who's behind the camera, or myself has tried to talk to an officer, they've kind of shooed us away, and no one has really addressed us. We were threatened about 10 minutes ago. One of the Minneapolis police officers told us that we needed to get down and that we were under arrest, despite the fact of him knowing and seeing that we're live streaming and Nico showing his press credentials. So we'll just kind of wait and see. But we did see more than a dozen community outreach folks who were organized in orange shirts that were given permission to leave. Outside of that, those people, all of the other protesters who were here, who kind of got caught in this ambush, are now being told that they're going to be arrested. And so when we arrived on the scene, we saw an organized group, more than 100 officers, who were starting to move in on the 5th precinct, where more than 100 people were gathered protesting. And so as they moved in, they gave demands for protesters to move south on Nicollet. The crowd continued to move back. They moved back probably about 100 feet. And after moving back and complying with the demands and no incidents, they were ambushed by the Minneapolis Police Department, who then has started to place these protesters under arrest. And so this is all stemming from the release of Minneapolis, or former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin. He got out on bail today on a non-cash bond. We see this guy in a scooter who's trying to leave the perimeter. State Patrol tried to stop him. And so there was a shot fired at the gentleman on the scooter who tried to leave the perimeter. And it appears as though he made it out safely. We're seeing more than, I'd probably say about 24 folks out here right now who are under arrest, and about a dozen individuals who have been allowed to leave this perimeter. We're here in Minneapolis at the 5th precinct. Again, this protest all formed as a result of the releasing of Derek Chauvin the former Minneapolis police officer who was arrested for the murder of George Floyd. He got out today on a non-cash bond. And so the community responded, demanding justice for George Floyd and just, saying that they don't feel like him being released from jail was the right thing. And so that protest started at about 6 o'clock on the corner where George Floyd was killed. And that protest turned into a march that went through the South Minneapolis community. And after that march dispersed, there was a group of individuals who came here to the 5th Precinct. We saw when we arrived probably 200 individuals here. And soon after we arrived, the State Patrol, the Minneapolis Police Department started moving in. And as they started to move in again, they told protesters to move south down Nicollet. The State Patrol was able to regain ground because when we got here, the protest was actually in the middle of this intersection here. And so they gradually gained back ground. But as that happened, as protesters complied with the orders from State Patrol, protesters moved back probably about 100 feet, and then they were ambushed from behind by the Minneapolis Police Department, who has now got about 24 individuals under arrest here. Again, we were also threatened at one point. I don't know if they're going to carry out those threats. Obviously, we're hoping that they don't. But we did see more than a dozen community outreach leaders who were all in orange gear. They were able to successfully leave outside of this perimeter. About maybe 5 minutes ago, we saw a guy in a scooter who tried to get out of this perimeter. He successfully made it past one line of State Patrol. However, there was a shot that was aimed at him. I don't think that it hit him, although I can't see around the building that he went behind. And so we're here streaming in front of the 5th Precinct at this point, totally surrounded by State Patrol and Minneapolis police, and a little uncertain of how this is exactly going to end for us. It looks like about 24 protesters will be arrested tonight. As you can see over here, 4 ladies are all, they have their hands behind their back. And yeah, they have been told that they're going to be arrested.
We can't feel our fingers. There's no flex in these. They call them flex cuffs, but we can't feel our fingers. Excuse me, could you put my mask on? Mine's around my wrist. Oh, Georgia and Nico, this is fun.
I'm gonna have you guys go on the other side of this police line, please.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Yep, keep going, please. Don't run into the cop behind you, please.
And so we, for the first time, have been addressed directly by one of the officers who is asking us to go on the other side of 31st. So at this point, we will not be able to show anything of what's happening to the individuals who have been placed under arrest. We have been instructed to go beyond this perimeter that they have created. They have requested that we go to 31st. And so we are exiting the perimeter. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We've been asked to move back past 31st. We see the National Lawyers Guild Observer is here. These individuals here with the green hats who typically come out to offer aid and legal advice and counsel to protesters who have been placed under arrest. Would any of you be interested in making a quick statement about why you're here? And no? Okay. So there's about 24 protesters who have been placed under arrest. If you've been with us for a while, you saw some of that happen. So now we're seeing the conservation officers standing here. There's about 10 of them that are holding this perimeter here now, keeping the press and keeping any speculators kind of behind this line here right in front of the 5th precinct. And so yeah, we're uncertain, you know, at this point what the future holds for these protesters, but we do know we saw them comply when the State Patrol started moving in and asking and demanding that they move back every time they retreated. And so, yeah, this is all in response to the release of Derek Chauvin.
The protest down by like the George Floyd Memorial. Oh, I guess she doesn't there. Earlier today, I heard the National Guard popped out to 30 in Chicago because there was supposed to be a protest out there. Because if you don't know, Derek Chauvin got released from prison today. He got released on no cash bond, which means he put something down. Like I mean, he couldn't put a card out for murder. So I'm guessing he put his whole house down as like bail. But yeah, I'm out here right now at the 5th precinct, and that's a little bit of a story.
So it looks kind of like they're moving some of the protesters. I know they have a large vehicle that could potentially be used to transport them, but it's challenging to see. Oh, you can see here, there's an individual coming out in a red hoodie. His hands are behind his back. Another individual coming out in a gray sweatshirt, a gray jogging suit. And so it looks like at this point they are going to be detained. So now they're actually bringing them back south on Nicollet. It looks like there's some type of conversation that's happening. And actually inside of this transit hub, we see 2 State Patrol officers who are talking to a young lady. And it almost looks like they're trying to get some information from her. They're making a report, writing some information down. And then the 2 individuals, now 3, that I can see from where I'm standing, are being searched. When these folks were placed under arrest, they were told that they were being arrested for unlawful assembly, which is really, to be honest, hard to believe because, you know, these folks were here protesting and complied with every demand that was made by State Patrol. For about 10 minutes, State Patrol moved in, demanded that they move back, and the protesters complied with every demand. Unfortunately, after complying with demands for over 10 minutes, they were ambushed from behind by the Minneapolis Police Department, who then started arresting the protesters. And so to kind of see this whole thing unfold is really mind-boggling. You know, when we cover these types of things, this is definitely not how you want to see them turn out. Especially when you're witnessing protesters that are complying with orders, moving back, retreating, and not being destructive, not being violent. And so it was shocking to all of us who were here after witnessing those protesters retreat and move back and in the direction that they were being told. They were demanded, they were told to move south down Nicollet, and they did move south down Nicollet, but about halfway down the block, they were ambushed by Minneapolis police officers who then put them under arrest. And so here now we have
612442654.
We have the National Lawyers Guild observers who are here, who are yelling out.
What's your number?
They are yelling out the law number they're yelling out the number to jail support. I assume that they were yelling out the number of the statute that allows protesters